There are nights when the heart grows quiet in ways it cannot explain. Nights when understanding slips through the fingers like water. When the questions that once felt loud become soft, heavy, weighty in the stillness. Tonight feels like such a night made of deep blue shadows, a night where the soul slows down enough to feel its longing, its ache, its desire to understand what has never made sense. Outside, the world is wrapped in a gentle dusk, a quiet sky stretching wide above the earth, soft clouds drifting slowly like thoughts trying to find a place to rest, and beneath them, the landscape lies still, bathed in the hush that only evening can bring. Inside the small room, lamplight glows in warm amber circles, flickering softly across woven mats and wooden walls, the light trembling as though carrying a message from somewhere far above, somewhere higher, somewhere the mind cannot reach but the heart recognizes. A solitary figure sits near the open window, their posture tired, yet peaceful, their hands resting loosely upon their lap, their breathing deep and slow, each inhale brushing gently against unanswered questions, each exhale releasing a little more of the weight carried through the day. And then, quietly, almost like a whisper brushing through the night, the ancient words rise within their memory, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts. Neither are your ways my ways." The words drift through the room like a soft wind, filling the walls, resting gently on the figure's shoulders, settling into the fragile places of the heart, bringing a calm that is not born of answers, but of presence. The figure closes their eyes, letting those words breathe through them, letting the truth of them settle slowly into the spaces that ache, spaces that have long sought clarity, reason, certainty. But tonight, certainty is not the gift. Peace is, peace that comes not from knowing, but from trusting, not from understanding, but from resting in the one whose ways stretch far beyond the reach of human thought. Take a slow, deep breath. Let your chest rise gently. Let your shoulders soften. Let the noise of the day drift far behind you. And as you rest here, in this small room filled with lamplight and evening hush, a soft invitation forms in the air, gentle and warm, if these stories bring you peace. Take a moment to like this video. Subscribe for more nightly reflections. And share where you're listening from tonight. Your words and presence help keep this space warm and growing. Now, take another slow breath. Let's begin. The figure draws in a deeper breath, and with it, a quiet surrender rises, a willing release of everything they cannot solve, everything they cannot predict, everything they cannot see. The night outside expands, dark, peaceful, as if God Himself stretched the sky wide to remind the soul of something beautiful, something ancient, something tender and true. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts higher than your thoughts. These words fall through the figure's heart like gentle rain, softening the soil of worry, loosening the ground around old fears, creating space for trust to root and grow. The breath inside them slows, warms, deepens, their shoulders sink into rest, their hands relax fully, and something luminous stirs inside, a quiet knowing, a gentle truth, that they are held by a wisdom far greater than their own, a wisdom that sees farther, knows deeper, loves stronger, guides with tenderness even through unseen paths. The lamplight glows warmer, the room grows softer, and the night outside feels like a vast, serene reminder that some things are not meant to be understood, only surrendered. Let your breath soften. Let your thoughts float like slow clouds across the sky. Let your heart rest in the beauty of a God whose ways are higher, whose thoughts reach far beyond sorrow, beyond confusion, beyond the quiet ache you carry tonight. Rest here, in this beginning, in this gentle night, in this soft unfolding of surrender. The night deepens around the small dwelling, wrapping walls and rooftop in a gentle hush. The kind of quiet that seems to invite every unspoken thought to rise, every hidden question to appear at the surface of the heart. Inside, lamplight continues its soft weaving along the wooden boards, gold light sliding over rough grain, pooling gently in corners, stretching into long tender shadows. The flame leans and straightens, as if breathing along with the one who sits nearby. The solitary figure remains at the low window, shoulders softened, hands resting loosely against woven fabric. The earlier weight in the chest still present, but rounder now, less sharp, like a stone that has been held for a long time in warm hands. Edges slowly worn smooth. Thoughts drift in slow circles. Memories of days that did not unfold as hoped. Paths that twisted where straight roads were expected. Prayers that seemed to meet silence instead of quick reply. There have been plans carefully made, and then scattered like dry leaves by winds no one could foresee. There have been hopes lifted high, and then lowered gently or abruptly, left waiting in a space without clear answers. There have been moments when the heart whispered why, not in defiance, but in sadness, in confusion, in honest ache. The figure lets these remembrances move quietly through the mind, not pushing them away, not clinging to them, just watching them drift by like clouds across the deep sky outside. Again the ancient words brush against the soul. My thoughts are not your thoughts. My ways are not your ways. They are not spoken aloud, yet they seem to move through the air, soft as breath, firm as mountains. The figure inhales slowly, and in that breath a realization trembles gently. Every unanswered question sits beneath a sky that has never once fallen. Every interrupted plan rests upon an earth still turning in the hand of God. Every quiet sorrow lies within a story seen fully only from a higher place. Outside the window, the night sky stretches in vast silence, a deep canopy of dark velvet, scattered with faint stars peeking through soft veils of cloud. Each point of light distant beyond measure. Each one a reminder of distances the mind cannot cross. High above, winds travel where no foot has walked. Currents of air sweeping over mountain ridges, over desert plains, over quiet seas, unseen yet shaping weather far below. The figure lifts their gaze toward that wide sky, and something inside gives way, not in collapse, but in surrender. There is so much that cannot be seen from here, so much that cannot be measured from this small room, so much that cannot be traced from this single point in time. Hands relax further, fingers uncurling as if releasing invisible threads they were never meant to hold so tightly. In the silence, a gentle understanding begins to form. It was never promised that all reasons would be revealed. It was never promised that every turn would be explained. It was never promised that every sorrow would make sense in the moment it was felt. What was promised is presence. A God whose ways rise higher than hills and horizons. A God whose thoughts sweep wider than oceans and skies. A God whose view is not bound to a single room, a single night, a single season of confusion. The lamplight flickers across the figure's face, highlighting the soft line of cheek and brow, the subtle easing of tension near the eyes, the way the jaw no longer holds itself quite so tight. Breath deepens again, slow and even, moving in gentle tides. Inhale. The questions are acknowledged. Exhale. The need to hold every answer loosens. Outside, a faint breeze stirs the branches of a nearby tree. Leaves shifting with a quiet rustle. Small silhouettes swaying against the sky. They do not resist the wind. They simply move with it, trusting the branch beneath them, trusting roots they cannot see. The heart watching this begins to understand in its own wordless way. Higher ways do not always feel gentle from below. Higher thoughts do not always appear clear from the ground. Yet they remain higher, steady, true. Somewhere beyond vision, paths are being woven with threads unseen. Events are being aligned where eyes cannot reach. Mercy is being prepared in advance of need. The figure lets their eyes drift half closed, letting the world blur into soft shapes of light and shadow, allowing the mind to rest from its constant searching. Understanding is not leaving. Striving is. The heart does not have to explain everything this night. It only has to rest in the one whose ways rise like the heavens above the earth. Breath in, slow and warm. Breath out, long and soft. In the layered quiet of the room, a new kind of peace begins to gather. Not the peace of solved puzzles, but the peace of gentle trust. The peace of placing what cannot be seen into hands that have never failed the sky. The night outside continues in its silent watch. The wide dome of heaven arching overhead. A living picture of all that is higher, wiser, kinder than the heart can grasp tonight. And in that soft knowing, the weight of unanswered questions finds a place to rest. The night deepens into a rich and velvety stillness, a stillness so gentle, so steady, it feels almost alive, as if the darkness itself is listening, as if the air is leaning close, waiting with quiet patience for the heart that sits near the window. Inside the small room, lamplight glows in soft, trembling circles, golden light stretching across woven mats, tracing the grain of wooden beams, moving in tiny rhythms as the flame sways with each passing breath, each small curl of wind through the open window. The solitary figure remains seated, shoulders relaxed, hands resting loosely in their lap, breath rising and falling in warm, slow waves, their thoughts quieter now, their inner questions soft, not gone, just gentler, and into this softened space, a whisper begins to rise, not from the world outside, not from memory, but from somewhere deeper, somewhere tender, somewhere touched by God. For my thoughts are not your thoughts. The words drift through the room like a feather, light, gentle, yet carrying a weight beyond measure, a truth too vast for the mind, but perfect for the heart in its longing. The figure inhales, and the breath feels illuminated, as though something sacred has entered the lungs, filling the chest with quiet clarity. Thoughts higher than human thought, ways higher than human way. The words move again, this time like a soft current running beneath the skin, a warm pulse threading through the soul. They open their eyes, lifting their gaze toward the sky outside the window, a wide, star-laced dome stretched above the valley, clouds drifting in pale streaks, their edges brushed with moonlight. The heavens feel enormous tonight, limitless, mysterious, quietly powerful, like a vast scroll written with wisdom the earth cannot contain. And something inside the figure stirs, a small shift, a gentle wonder, a recognition that there is a way of seeing far beyond their own. The wind moves softly through the valley, rustling leaves in slow, rhythmic patterns, brushes of sound that feel like whispers carried from a higher place. The figure listens, breath held for a moment, as though tuning the heart to a frequency only the soul can hear. God's thoughts are not confined to this room, or to this moment, or to the narrow horizon of human understanding. His thoughts stretch as high as the silent stars, as wide as the unseen currents of the night, as deep as the ancient mountains beyond the valley. The figure lets their shoulders fall even further, a soft release, a gesture of surrender to something greater, something wiser, something so gently beyond them. They inhale again, and the breath draws in. The cool scent of night air, the faint aroma of damp earth, the whisper of pine carried from the hillside. It feels like breathing in the sky itself, breathing in the vastness of God's thoughts, breathing in a wisdom far beyond their own. A soft warmth moves across their chest, as though the heart itself is being gently held, gently reassured. You do not need to understand everything. You only need to trust the one who does. The words do not speak in sentences. They speak in feeling, a tender impression. Resting in the deepest spaces of the soul, outside, a cloud drifts across the moon, casting the valley in deeper shadow. And yet, the figure feels no fear, because even the shadow speaks of the higher ways, the unseen movements, the quiet orchestration of heaven's rhythm. Light hidden behind cloud is still light. Guidance hidden from view is still guidance. God's thoughts higher than ours are still thoughts of love, still thoughts of mercy, still thoughts of gentle purpose. The figure closes their eyes again, letting the darkness behind their lids become its own kind of sky, a sky where God's higher thoughts drift like unseen constellations, guiding, shaping, loving. Even when the mind cannot follow their paths, they draw in another breath, warm and deep, and this time the inhale carries a peace that feels older than sorrow, deeper than confusion, a peace that says, God knows the way, even when you do not. Outside, the valley sighs in a low, tender hush, grass brushing grass, branches shifting softly, a quiet murmur rising from the earth like a shared prayer. Everything seems aligned to one truth. His ways are higher, his thoughts are higher, and the heart is safe in the hands of such wisdom. The figure exhales slowly, their breath a warm ribbon dissolving into the quiet night, their soul softening into surrender, into trust, into rest. The night stretches wide above the quiet valley, a deep and endless sky resting over hills and rooftops like a soft, unseen canopy, its vastness gentle, its silence tender, its distance shimmering with a mystery the heart can feel even when the mind cannot reach it. Inside the small room, lamplight glows in warm, unhurried circles, its golden halo touching the walls, softening the edges of every shadow, bringing a sense of nearness to a world that can sometimes feel overwhelmingly large. The solitary figure remains near the open window, their posture loose, their breath warm and steady, their hands resting open in quiet surrender, and their gaze slowly lifting, drawn upward by something in the night, by a pull as gentle as gravity, as ancient as the first dawn. Above them, The sky expands in silent majesty, a canvas painted in hues of deep blue and silver. Clouds drifting softly like thoughts wrapped in light. Stars flickering like distant promises, unreachable, yet unmistakably present. The figure watches the sky with slow, reverent breaths, feeling small, but not in a way that wounds, in a way that comforts, in a way that reminds the soul it was never meant to hold the whole world together. For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways. The words drift across their heart again, soft as a breeze, strong as a mountain, full of the gentle authority that comes from the one who shaped the sky they're gazing at. They inhale, and the breath feels like it enters a deeper place inside them, a place where longing meets humility, where worry meets wonder, where questions meet a presence larger than the heavens. Their eyes lift higher, tracing the slow drift of clouds above, clouds moving with a knowing the figure does not share, traveling paths the earthbound cannot see, shifting through air currents shaped by forces far above the reach of human thought. And in that movement, a quiet realization touches the soul. This sky, this vast stretch of mystery, this place where God's thoughts dwell, is not meant to be understood fully, only trusted, only admired, only rested beneath. The figure exhales, and their breath feels like a soft release into something bigger than themselves, a letting go of needing to understand every turn, every pause, every delay, every closed door, every moment that didn't unfold the way the heart once hoped. Outside, the wind begins to move, slow, cool, sliding over the fields, rustling through distant trees, curling around stones warmed by the day, carrying the scent of deep earth and fading leaves. The breeze lifts into the window, brushes the figure's face with a tenderness that feels almost deliberate, as though the night itself is whispering what the psalmist once heard. There are paths too high for you to trace. There are thoughts too deep for you to follow, but you are safe beneath them, held beneath them, guided by the one who walks those heights with ease. The figure's shoulders fall even further, a long-held tension melting away, their hands relaxing fully, palms now facing upward, not as a question, but as an offering, a gesture of surrender that feels like rest. They breathe again, warm, slow, steady, and for a moment, the room feels like a sanctuary suspended between earth and sky, a quiet space where human limitation meets divine compassion. The lamplight flickers in slow, rolling rhythms, the flame painting soft gold against the walls, its glow blending with the cool blue of night drifting in from the window, a mingling of earthbound warmth and heavenly distance. The figure watches the sky with softened eyes, not searching, just receiving, letting the vastness above teach the heart something the mind could not grasp on its own. Higher ways do not always explain themselves, but they always hold, they always guide, they always love, in quiet, faithful currents moving above and around and beneath the places we can see. The valley below rests in deep peace, shadows lying gently across fields, stones cooling in night air, quiet waters reflecting faint silver light, all of creation resting beneath that vast sky. The figure feels their soul resting too, not because clarity has come, but because trust has, not because answers have arrived, but because presence has. Let your breath soften as theirs softens. Let your thoughts drift upward like quiet clouds. Let your heart rest beneath a sky held in hands wiser than yours. You do not need to know the way. You only need to know the one who walks above it, who sees farther, who loves deeper, who holds every step you cannot yet see. The night deepens into a gentle, velvety calm, a calm that wraps itself around the small dwelling like a soft cloak, quieting the corners, slowing the breath, softening the weight of all that remains unknown. Inside the room, lamplight glows in warm, trembling ripples, light pooling on the floor, touching the woven mats with soft gold. floating up the walls in small waves that seem to move with the rhythm of the figure's breathing. The solitary figure remains near the window, their posture relaxed, their hands resting open upon their knees, their breath moving in slow, steady tides, each inhale brushing gently against the lingering ache of what is not understood, each exhale releasing a little more of the heaviness carried throughout the day. They tilt their heads slightly, eyes half open, gazing toward the deep, endless stretch of the night sky. A sky that seems almost alive with quiet wisdom, with mystery, with an unseen order far beyond human sight. And here, in this quiet space between knowing and surrender, the ancient words rise again, gently. My ways are higher than your ways, my thoughts higher than your thoughts. The figure breathes these words like fresh air, letting them drift through the heart, letting them touch the tender places where confusion once settled, letting them become a soft balm over the ache of not knowing. They close their eyes, and in the darkness behind their eyelids, a spaciousness opens, a feeling of being held by something far bigger than the moment, far bigger than any unanswered question. This is where certainty loosens, where the need to explain begins to fade, where trust becomes a quiet river flowing deeper and deeper into the soul. Outside the window, the valley lies in a hushed stillness, grass bending lightly under the soft breath of evening wind, trees swaying in slow curves, as though bowing gently beneath an unseen guidance. Nothing in creation rushes to understand the path it walks. The flower does not demand to know why the rain comes. The river does not question its winding trail. The stars do not argue with where they are placed. Everything simply follows its appointed way, trusting the one whose hands crafted the pattern, trusting a wisdom older than time. The figure opens their eyes again, and the sky above seems even wider now, even deeper. A reminder written in darkness and light. There is so much you cannot see, and that is not a mistake, for what God sees is enough. They inhale slowly, letting the breath fill the chest, expand the ribs, calm the heart, and with the exhale, they feel something loosen inside, a knot of expectation, a grip of urgency, a strain from trying to control what was never theirs to hold. The lamplight flickers softly beside them, its glow dancing across the wooden floor, mingling with the faint blue light drifting in from the night, a blending of warmth and coolness, earth and sky, human limitation and divine wisdom. The figure rests a hand lightly over their heart, feeling the steady rhythm beneath their palm, and this time, that heartbeat feels peaceful, unhurried, safe. Letting go of certainty does not feel like falling, it feels like floating, like resting in the hands that shaped the galaxies, the hands that guide winds across oceans, the hands that hold every life with tenderness. They close their eyes once more, letting their breath slow, letting the night move gently around them, letting the truth settle deeper. You're not meant to see the whole path, only the next step, and even that is guided by one who never missteps. Outside, the stars shimmer with quiet confidence. Clouds drift in slow, fluid patterns. The night air moves with purpose unseen. None of it is accidental. None of it is wasted. None of it is outside the wisdom of God. And neither are you. Neither is your story. Neither is the mystery you sit within tonight. Let your breath soften. Let your chest loosen. Let your shoulders melt into the quiet around you. This is the holy work of trust, not forcing understanding, but allowing peace to hold what the mind cannot grasp. You are safe in the higher way. You are guided by the higher thought. You are carried by a wisdom far beyond your own, and loved far more deeply than you know. The night folds deeper into itself, not as a weight, but as a soft blanket settling over the valley, a gentle covering that makes every sound quieter, every breath slower, every thought softer, as if the darkness itself is inviting the heart to rest in what cannot yet be known. Inside the small dwelling, lamplight glows in warm, wavering circles. its golden shimmer slipping along the floorboards, touching the edges of woven mats, casting soft curves of light across the figure who sits near the open window. The solitary figure's posture has changed, not in large ways, but in subtle, tender ways the heart feels more than the eyes can see. Their shoulders no longer held in tension, their breath deeper, their hands resting open in quiet surrender. And yet, deep inside them, there is still a valley, a place that feels low, quiet, still waiting for clarity that has not come. This is the valley of not knowing, the deep place where uncertainty rests, not in panic, but in silence, in longing, in an honest ache that simply wants to understand the path beneath their feet. The figure breathes into this valley, a slow inhale that brushes the edges of worry, a slow exhale that releases a thread of it back into the night. Their eyes drift toward the darkness outside the window, the deep stretch of lowland resting beneath soft moonlight, its contours gentle, its shadows long, its quiet so complete it feels like a language the heart recognizes even without words. In the cool air drifting through the window, the figure senses something sacred, a presence that does not rush to explain, but sits with them in the mystery. For my ways are higher than your ways. The words rise again, not to correct, not to instruct, but to comfort, to remind, to gently guide the heart away from fear and towards surrender. Higher ways do not eliminate valleys, they transform them, turning them into places where trust is shaped, where faith deepens, where rest becomes possible even without answers. The figure places a hand over their heart, feeling the steady rhythm beneath their palm, and notices it is not beating with urgency, not thudding with anxiety, but moving in calm, slow, even pulses, as though the body knows something the mind is still learning. You are held even here, in the valley, in the uncertainty, in the deep place where nothing seems clear. Outside, the valley breathes through soft layers of wind, a hush running across the tall grass, a quiet sigh weaving between branches, a gentle shift settling over the low ground like a peaceful blanket. The valley is not afraid of its depth. The valley trusts the sky above it. The valley rests beneath whatever the night brings, knowing dawn will find it, always, without fail. The figure watches the shadows move across the valley floor, each movement slow, soft, calm, reminding them that even in low places, there is life, there is motion, there is presence. Their breath deepens again, filling their lungs with cool night air, then flowing out in a long, warm stream, emptying the chest of weight that does not belong there, and in that breath, the figure realizes something tender, something freeing. They do not need to climb out of the valley tonight, they only need to rest in it, with God beside them, holding them, guiding them, loving them, even here, especially here. The lamplight flickers, its glow moving in slow waves across the room, like a small sun shining in the quiet darkness, gentle, steady, faithful. Shadows shift along the walls, round and soft, no longer sharp or heavy, but light, almost comforting, reminding the heart that darkness is not absence, only softness, only the space where deeper things grow. The valley inside the figure begins to feel different now, not frightening, not empty, but spacious, a place where God is near, where peace can stretch its wings, where the heart can breathe without fear of falling. Let your breath deepen with theirs, warm, slow, soft. Let your shoulders lower, let your thoughts loosen, let your heart open gently to the deeper truth. You're not alone in your valley. You're not abandoned in what you do not know. God is here, in the depth, in the not knowing, in the quiet ache, and His ways, higher than yours, hold every step you cannot yet see. The night deepens into its softest quiet, a quiet so tender, so still, it feels almost like a presence in itself, a calmness that wraps gently around the valley, the hills, the small dwelling, and the solitary figure who sits by the open window. Inside the room, the lamplight glows low and steady, a warm orb of gold breathing softly against the walls, its light gentle, unhurried, slowly pulsing like a steady heartbeat in the dark. The figure's posture is at ease now, their shoulders lowered, their breath slow and warm, their hands resting open in their lap, palms turned upward as if ready to receive something they cannot yet name, something felt rather than seen. And into this softened stillness, a new awareness drifts close, quiet, comforting, like a tender hand resting lightly upon the heart. God is near. Even when the way is hidden, even when the path feels impossible to trace, even when the valley stretches long beneath a moonless sky, He is near. The figure breathes in, and the inhale feels touched by this nearness. Cool air brushing the edges of warmth rising in their chest. The warmth of a presence not felt in sound or vision, but in the deep, gentle settling of the soul. They exhale, and the breath moves out in a smooth ribbon, long, soft, carrying with it old tension, old tightness, a weight the heart no longer needs to hold. Outside the window, the valley rests in a silence filled with subtle movement. Trees shifting with the faintest wind, grass swaying in slow arcs, shadows drifting across the low ground like soft waves. No sudden motion, no abrupt change, only the quiet rhythm of creation breathing, waiting, resting in the presence of the one who holds it all. The figure watches the darkness gently stir, their eyes half open, their gaze soft, not searching, simply witnessing. And then, almost as if whispered through the wind, a tender truth rises. The hidden way is still a guided way. The figure closes their eyes, letting those words settle through them, letting them meet the places where fear once lived, letting them touch the quiet corners where uncertainty still lingers. God's ways may be higher, but His presence is close, closer than breath, closer than heartbeat, closer than any explanation or answer ever could be. A soft breeze slips through the open window, cool against the skin, gentle against the cheeks, a tender brush along the shoulders. It feels almost like comfort, almost like a whisper carried through the night, not in words, but in warmth, in stillness, in quiet assurance. The figure's breath deepens again, slow and steady, their chest rising in a gentle arc, then falling in peaceful release. Their hands rest more loosely now, fingers uncurling fully, muscles unclenching, as if recognizing that the one who holds the stars also holds them, also holds their questions, also holds their aching heart. The lamplight flickers, but not in fear, in rhythm, a slow dance of gold light moving across the room, matching the rise and fall of breath. The quiet pulse of peace that has begun to settle deep inside, outside. The night sky stretches higher and higher, its darkness soft, its distance filled with quiet wisdom, its vastness reminding the heart that even what is hidden can be holy, can be guided, can be held by a higher love. A gentle stillness touches the figure's spirit, a stillness that tells the heart, you do not need to see the way, to be led along it. You do not need to understand every step, to be held through each one. You do not need to know what comes next, to be safe within the arms of the one who does. The figure opens their eyes again, and the world looks softer, not because the night has changed, but because trust has, because presence has drawn close enough to warm the deepest parts of their heart. They breathe in, slow and warm, letting the breath fill them with quiet assurance. They breathe out, long and soft, resting in a truth older than sorrow, older than confusion, older than every question that has ever lived inside the human soul. God is near, even here, even now, even when the way is hidden from sight. Let your own breath soften, let your shoulders lower, let your heart lean gently into the warmth gathering inside. You are not walking this night alone. You're not wandering without guidance. You're not lost in the mystery. You are held by the one whose ways are higher, and whose nearness is deeper than the questions you carry. The night stretches long and quiet over the valley, a deep, tender quiet that feels almost like a cradle, holding every breath, every thought, every softened ache inside the solitary figure who sits by the open window. Inside the small room, lamplight glows low and warm, its gentle shimmer spreading across the woven mat, touching wooden walls with fragile gold, dancing in soft curves as the flame sways with each faint movement of air. The figure's posture has grown even more relaxed, their shoulders loose, their hands resting gently open upon their knees, their breath slow and even, each inhale cool and soft, each exhale warm and deep, and somewhere inside, in a place the heart had held tightly for so long, something begins to shift, not loudly, not suddenly, but quietly, like the first small stirring of a leaf in gentle wind. This is where trust begins, not in certainty, not in understanding, but in the soft moment when the heart stops striving. The figure closes their eyes, letting the darkness behind their eyelids settle like a calm sea, letting thoughts drift quietly to the edges of the mind, allowing the soul to breathe in a way it has not breathed in a long time. And into this stillness, the ancient words rise once more. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways. The words land softly in the heart, not as correction, not as rebuke, but as comfort, as reassurance, as a gentle hand resting over the chest, saying, "You do not have to carry this alone." The figure inhales, and the breath feels like a soft glow forming inside, a quiet warmth blooming beneath the ribs, the beginning of something tender, something steady, something that feels like trust. Outside the window, the night moves in delicate patterns, wind brushing through tall grasses, low branches swaying with the rhythm of unseen currents, the valley stretching out in soft waves of shadow and moonlight. Nothing in creation fights to understand its path, not the river that winds through the lowland, not the stars anchored in their ancient positions, not the breeze drifting from hill to hill. Each simply follows the movement set before it. Each simply receives what the night brings. The figure watches this quiet harmony, and something inside loosens further, a recognition forming, a truth unfolding. The heart was never meant to wrestle its way through every mystery, nor push its way to clarity, nor strain to hold what lies beyond its sight. Trust begins when striving ends, when the soul stops fighting the unknown and starts resting in the one who knows all things. They inhale again, slow and long, letting the breath sink into every weary place inside, letting it soothe the spaces where confusion once held its grip. They exhale, and the release feels like a soft surrender, a quiet letting go of the need to map out the path ahead, a gentle loosening of the burdens carried alone. The lamplight flickers in lazy circles, painting the walls with warm gold, casting shadows that no longer feel heavy, but tender, as if even the darkness has softened. The figure rests one hand lightly upon their chest, feeling the calm rhythm beneath their palm, and the heartbeat feels different now, slower, steadier, as though it has begun to trust the unseen hand guiding it. Trust does not rise all at once, it rises in small currents, subtle shifts, like light creeping along the horizon before dawn appears. Outside the window, the sky deepens into a richer shade of blue, stars flickering like slow pulses of light, clouds drifting in long, gentle strokes, each movement reflecting a world held together by a wisdom the mind cannot measure. The figure breathes this in, letting the vastness of the sky remind them that their story does not rest upon their own understanding, but upon a God whose thoughts rise higher than the tallest mountains, whose ways stretch farther than the edge of the world. And for the first time tonight, a quiet peace touches the deepest part of their heart, a sense that they do not need to rush, or grasp, or worry, or control. They only need to rest, breathe, and trust. Trust that God knows what they do not. Trust that God sees what they cannot. Trust that God holds what they cannot carry. Trust that God leads even in the silent, hidden places. Let your own breath slow with theirs, warm and soft. Let your shoulders lower. Let your heart loosen its grip on the things it cannot understand. You do not need to strive tonight. You do not need to know the whole path. You only need to rest in the presence that knows every step. The first stirring of trust is already rising within you, quiet, warm, gentle, like dawn preparing behind the horizon. The night settles into its deepest quiet, a quiet so soft, so steady. It feels like a healing presence resting over the valley, over the hills, over the small dwelling where the solitary figure remains by the open window. Inside the room, the lamplight glows low and warm, a soft golden pool shimmering across the floor, drifting gently over woven mats, touching the wooden beams with slow waves of amber, the flames swaying in a calm rhythm that seems to breathe with the stillness. The figure sits with eyes half closed, hands resting loosely open upon their knees, breath rising and falling in slow, peaceful tides, their body wrapped in a quiet calm that feels new, unexpected, like healing has begun without announcing itself. And inside them, within the quiet folds of the heart, something deeper begins to awaken, a whisper of warmth, a soft stirring of peace, a gentle recognition that God has been working not despite the mystery, but through it. They inhale, and the breath feels like light entering the soul, a warm glow moving through the chest, settling behind the ribs, bringing calm to places that once trembled with uncertainty. They exhale, and the release feels like loosening, letting go, softening into a trust that does not need answers to be real. Outside the window, the valley rests in tender stillness, shadows sliding slowly over tall grasses, branches brushing softly in the night wind, a soft chorus of leaves whispering in long, gentle waves. Everything in creation moves with quiet certainty, without seeing where the wind has come from or where it is going. Yet it moves, responds, receives, trusts. The figure watches this gentle movement, and something inside them softens even more, a deep understanding rising like dawn before the light touches the sky. Mystery is not absence. Mystery is not abandonment. Mystery is the way of God weaving healing in places too deep for the eyes, too sacred for explanations. His thoughts are higher, his ways are higher, and so often the healing arrives long before the clarity does. The figure closes their eyes fully now, and in the darkness behind their eyelids a sense of presence settles around them. Warm, steady, not loud, not dramatic, but gentle in a way that feels holy. It feels like hands cupping the heart, soft, protective, holding every question, every ache, every hidden wound, with tender care. The heart feels this, even if the mind does not understand it, and the figure breathes deeper, slower, as the mystery begins to feel less like confusion and more like comfort. You do not have to understand how he heals, only that he does. The words rise without sound, without shape, only feeling, moving quietly through the soul like warm water flowing through river stones, soothing what has long been restless. The lamplight flickers softly, the flame curling in slow arcs, painting warmth across the figure's relaxed face, highlighting the peaceful curve of eyelids, the softened line of their jaw, the ease now living in their breath. Outside, the night sky shifts, clouds drifting in, long strokes across a field of faint stars, the moon hidden, yet still illuminating the valley in a cool, muted glow. Even when unseen, light moves, guides, shapes the world with gentle precision. The figure senses this truth deep within, a realization unfolding like a slow blossom. God's work is often hidden, quiet, unseen, but never absent, never idle, never far from the aching places of the heart. Trust begins to grow in the unseen. Healing begins in the hidden. Peace begins beneath the surface where God moves with a wisdom higher than the tallest skies. Their breath deepens again, their shoulders lowering, their hands open in complete ease, as though releasing the last tight knot of self-reliance. The mystery no longer feels threatening. It feels like the gentle hand of the one who knows the full picture, the one who sees what is around the corner, the one who arranges what the heart cannot yet imagine, the one whose ways, though higher, are always loving. Let your own breath mirror theirs, slow, warm, soft. Let your body ease into the quiet around you. Let your thoughts soften into trust that does not need to see the path. Healing is already moving through your story, even in the places you cannot see, even in the questions still unanswered, even in the silence between each breath. God is working in ways beyond sight, beyond understanding, beyond the reach of worry, and His quiet work is already becoming peace within you. The night holds its softest depth now, a deep, velvety stillness settling over the valley like a warm blanket. Quiet, steady, filled with a peace so gentle it feels almost like a hand resting lightly across the heart. Inside the small dwelling, the lamplight glows low, its circle of gold flickering softly across the floor, reaching toward the window where the solitary figure sits, breath slow, body relaxed, hands resting open upon their knees as though offering the night their last remaining strains of worry. The air drifting through the window is cool and clean, carrying the faint scent of distant pines, the whisper of low grasses shifting in the breeze, the soft hum of creation moving in rhythms deeper than thought. And as the figure sits in this gentle stillness, something begins to awaken inside them, a quiet strength, not loud, not sudden, but steady, warm, rising like a small flame deep within the chest. It is the strength that comes when mystery no longer frightens the heart, the strength that forms when trust begins to settle in tender roots, the strength born from knowing that God's ways, though higher, though hidden, are guided entirely by love. The figure inhales, and the breath feels fuller than before, a warm expansion beneath the ribs, a breath filled not with certainty, but with quiet courage, courage gentle enough for the night, strong enough for the journey ahead. For the first time in a long time, the figure senses their own steps again, not with clarity, not with a mapped-out path, but with assurance, a soft inner knowing that each step, no matter how small, is carried by one whose thoughts rise higher than the heavens. Outside the window, the valley rests beneath a calm sky, clouds stretched in pale, glowing strands, stars blinking like distant lanterns, the land breathing in long, slow rhythms, as though encouraging the heart to breathe the same way. The figure watches the gentle sway of branches in the wind, noticing how they move without resistance, how they bend but do not break, how they lean and return, trusting roots the eye cannot see, trusting the unseen strength beneath the soil. And something inside the figure softens at this sight, a recognition forming in the quiet center of the heart. Strength does not come from seeing the whole path. Strength grows from trusting the one who walks alongside. They lower their gaze to their own hands, open, relaxed, no longer clenched in worry, no longer gripping invisible burdens, just open, ready, available. The heart inside them feels the same, open, ready, available to the gentle leading of God's higher way, a way that does not always speak loudly, but always moves with perfect timing. Tears gather in the figure's eyes, not from sorrow, but from release, from the tender realization that they do not have to walk alone, that they do not need to understand everything to move forward, that even when tears fall, God holds every step with unwavering love. One tear slips down their cheek, warm, soft, falling like a small blessing into the quiet room. The figure does not wipe it away. They simply breathe, letting the tear fall as an offering, as a confession, as a gentle acknowledgement of what has been heavy and what is now being lifted. Outside, the night wind moves in a soft swell, rustling through the valley grasses, sending a gentle wave through the low branches, carrying a whisper that feels almost like a promise. You do not walk this road alone. Your steps are known, your tears are seen, your strength is being renewed, even here, even now, even in the quiet unseen places of the heart. The figure inhales again, and the breath feels steady, solid, as if anchored in something deeper than sorrow, deeper than confusion, deeper than the shifting paths of life. Their exhale moves out in a warm, slow stream, carrying the last threads of fear, the remnants of striving, the weight of needing to control what was never theirs. They feel grounded now, not by knowledge, but by presence, not by clarity, but by trust, not by their own strength, but by the gentle strength God is forming within them, inside. This peaceful room, on this quiet night, the figure finds courage, soft, tender courage, the kind that whispers rather than shouts, the kind that sustains rather than rushes, the kind that says, "You can take another step, even without seeing the whole way, because the one who leads you sees every turn, every valley, every blessing waiting in the unseen." Let your own breath deepen with theirs, warm, slow, steady. Let your body settle into a softness that feels like rest. Let your heart loosen its grip on what it cannot hold. Strength is already rising within you, quiet, warm, unwavering, born from a trust that does not require sight, only surrender, only presence, only the gentle courage to take the next step. The night rests in its deepest quiet now, the kind of quiet that feels ancient, steady, as though the world itself is holding its breath in gentle reverence, waiting for the soft turning that always comes before dawn. Inside the small dwelling, the lamplight glows faintly, its warm halo shrinking into a gentle ember of gold, casting tender curves of light across the wooden floor, flickering with slow, sleepy movements that mirror the calm settling inside the solitary figure by the window. The figure sits with eyes half-lidded, breath rising and falling in slow, peaceful waves, their hands resting open in their lap, their shoulders softened into full surrender, their heart warm, quiet, tender, as if some long-held sorrow has finally begun to ease its grip. Outside the window, the valley lies wrapped in deep blue stillness, its contours softened, its shadows long and low, its grasses moving in slow ripples beneath the night wind, and above it all, the sky begins to shift, so subtly, so quietly, that only a heart at rest could notice. The darkness lightens at the edges, not enough to reveal day, but enough to suggest that day is coming, that the season is beginning to turn, that something invisible has already begun to change. The figure inhales, and the breath feels like a soft anticipation, a quiet recognition that the heaviness inside them is no longer rooted deep, that it has begun to lift, gently, slowly, like morning mist rising from a silent field. They exhale, and the release is warm, long, full of surrender, letting go of the last threads of weight clinging to the edges of the heart. This is what happens when God moves in the unseen places, when His higher ways, though hidden, begin to unfold, when His thoughts, though distant like stars, begin to warm the soul from within. Sorrow does not vanish in an instant. It loosens, it thins, it lifts in slow, gentle layers, the way mist rises when dawn begins its quiet approach. The figure opens their eyes and looks toward the valley, and the world outside seems different, not brighter, but softer, as though the night itself is letting go of its weight. Shadows that once felt heavy now drift like delicate smoke. Grasses that once bowed low now sway with gentle resilience. Even the distant hills appear less solemn, as if touched by the faint promise of morning. Inside the chest, the figure feels an echo of this turning, an inner thaw, a shift from heaviness to hope, from sorrow to stillness, from ache to quiet acceptance. They place a hand lightly over their heart, and the warmth beneath their palm feels deeper than before, not a flame, but a steady glow, the gentle warmth of renewal beginning to take shape. Seasons turn slowly, but surely, and the heart follows, in its own time, in its own soft way. Higher ways do not rush the healing, they guide it tenderly, patiently, bringing change like dawn brings light, not in a burst, but in a quiet, unfolding grace. The lamplight flickers, its flame leaning into a softer arc, almost ready to rest, mirroring the figure's own readiness, their shift from holding sorrow to allowing God to carry it. Outside, the sky brightens by a single shade, just enough to soften the horizon, just enough to hint that night is no longer deepening, but easing, making room for what comes next, and the figure feels the change inside, a slow, tender lifting. The way grief loosens its hold not through answers, but through presence. They breathe in, and hope drifts into the lungs like cool morning air, fresh, gentle, quietly promising. They breathe out, and their sorrow releases a little more, rising like mist toward the heavens, carried by the one whose ways are higher, whose thoughts are kinder, whose timing is perfect. Let your own breath soften with theirs, warm, slow, easy. Let the turning within you begin. Let the weight loosen its hold. Let the sorrow lift in gentle strands. You do not need to force the change. You only need to rest beneath the higher way, the higher thought, the quiet unfolding of God's tender wisdom. The season is turning, and your heart is turning with it, slowly, quietly, beautifully. The night holds to its softest blue now, a deep, tender hue stretched gently across the valley. Like a blanket of calm, the heavens have lowered slowly over the earth. Quiet, steady, almost weightless in its peace. Inside the small dwelling, the lamplight has dimmed to a soft ember, a warm pulse of gold that trembles gently with every faint curl of wind, its glow touching the edges of the room like a final whisper of warmth, mixing with the cool breath of night drifting in through the open window. The solitary figure sits with their posture relaxed, hands resting open in their lap, shoulders lowered in full surrender, breath moving in slow, even tides that rise and fall like a calm sea. And deep within them, beneath the rhythm of breath, beneath the fading sorrow, beneath the softening weight of confusion, a quiet work has begun, not loud, not visible, but real, steady, heaven-sent, a work that happens without announcement, without explanation, without any sound except the warm whisper of peace settling deeper and deeper into the soul. Outside the window, the valley is wrapped in a sacred stillness, grasses swaying gently beneath the night wind, branches shifting in slow arcs. The distant hills curved in soft silhouettes against the rising blue of the horizon. Nothing appears different, and yet everything feels changed. The world rests in a silence where God is moving, where unseen hands are rearranging the pieces of tomorrow, where mercy unfolds like a quiet dawn slowly preparing to rise. The figure inhales, and the breath feels touched by this hidden movement, as though heaven is breathing with them, a cool stream of air sliding into the chest, awakening a soft glow behind the ribs. They exhale, and the release is warm, long, full of trust, as though the soul recognizes what the mind cannot yet see. God is working, even now, even here, even in the parts of the story still cloaked in darkness. They close their eyes, and the darkness behind their lids feels different tonight. Less like mystery, more like presence, more like the deep places where God shapes things unseen, where His higher thoughts weave paths the heart will one day walk with peace. This is the sacred truth the figure begins to feel, not as instruction, not as knowledge, but as warmth, as reassurance, as the gentle certainty that something good is unfolding quietly in the silence. Outside, a soft breeze lifts across the valley, moving in slow, sweeping currents, brushing over tall grasses, rustling through leaves, whispering between rocks warmed earlier by the day. The breeze slips into the small room, cool against the skin, gentle against the face, carrying the faint scent of pine, the hint of distant water, the quiet breath of creation. It feels like the touch of unseen hands, a reminder that the one whose ways are higher moves just as gently, just as tenderly, just as faithfully in the unseen corners of the heart. The figure opens their eyes slowly, and the world appears softer, not because anything outside has changed dramatically, but because something inside has, a quiet readiness, a soft expectation, a deepening peace. This is how God moves, quietly, faithfully, without forcing, without rushing, without requiring the heart to understand every step. He moves beneath the surface, in the spaces where the heart once trembled, in the stories still unformed, in the soil where future blessings are sown long before they rise into view. He moves like dawn, arriving before it is seen, warming the world long before the first light touches the horizon. The figure breathes again, slow, tender, and the breath feels like joining in the hidden work of heaven, aligning with the quiet rhythm of the one who holds their story, their tears, their hopes, their unfolding future. They place one hand gently over their heart, feeling the steady warmth there, and the heartbeat feels stronger now, calmer, no longer burdened, but carried. You do not have to see the work, for the work to be real. You do not have to understand the path, for the path to be guided. You do not have to hear the answer, for the answer to be forming in heaven's quiet. Let your breath deepen with theirs. Let your shoulders lower. Let your heart settle into the softness gathering inside. God is moving, quietly, tenderly, wisely, in ways higher than you can imagine, and His quiet work is already becoming peace within you. The night has settled into its gentlest form, a soft, velvety hush resting over the valley, over the hills, over the small dwelling filled with warm lamplight and quiet breath. Inside the room, the flame glows low and steady, a small circle of gold shimmering softly against wooden walls, its light tender, unhurried, mirroring the calm that has bloomed inside the solitary figure sitting by the open window. Their posture is peaceful, their hands resting open in their lap, their breath moving in slow, quiet waves, and their heart warm now, softened by trust, loosened from striving, carried gently by the one whose ways are higher. Something inside them begins to rise tonight, not as a sudden burst of clarity, not as answers falling neatly into place, but as a quiet elevation, a lifting of the soul toward a higher understanding that cannot be spoken, only felt. The figure lifts their gaze toward the sky, and the heavens stretch wide above them, deep blue softening to gray at the edges, clouds drifting in gentle, winding trails, stars blinking like distant thoughts of God scattered across the darkness. It feels as though the night itself has opened a window into the heights, a glimpse, just a glimpse, of a wisdom so vast, so tender, so infinitely above human thought, that the heart can only breathe in its presence, not grasp it, not measure it, only receive it. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways. The words move softly through the soul, like a warm current flowing beneath still waters, bringing calm to places once knotted with worry, bringing peace to places once tangled with questions. The figure inhales, and the breath feels fuller, rounder, as though drawn from a higher place, as if the air itself carries a quiet wisdom meant to settle deep inside the heart. They exhale, and the release feels like lifting, like rising, above the weight of earlier sorrow, like seeing from a vantage point beyond fear, still seated, still low to the earth. The soul rises, slowly, quietly, as though carried by unseen hands to a height where things look softer, clearer, less heavy than before. The valley outside rests in gentle shadow, its fields stretched like soft fabric beneath the night sky, its trees moving in slow arcs with the breeze, its hills standing steady in long, silent silhouettes. From this quiet inner height, the figure sees it differently, not as a place of uncertainty, but as a landscape held, guided, cradled by the same wisdom that holds the stars in place. What once felt confusing now feels purposeful. What once felt overwhelming now feels small beneath the vastness of God's higher thought. This is not understanding. This is perspective, a holy elevation where the heart glimpses what the mind cannot grasp. The lamplight flickers, casting warm arcs across the wooden floor, its flame glowing against the soft blue drifting in. From the window, earthbound light mingling with heavenly shadow. A gentle reminder that God's higher way touches even the smallest places, even this quiet room, even the fragile corners of the heart. The figure places a hand over their chest, feeling the steady rhythm beneath their palm, and that heartbeat feels lighter now, less pressed down, less tangled, more free, as though the soul has stepped into a higher air, a thinner, fresher space where peace breathes easier. The height does not remove the mystery, it reframes it. It lifts the heart above the swirl of worry, above the tightness of fear, above the old need to control what was never theirs to hold. And from this place, the figure begins to understand something new, not in thought, but in feeling. God sees the whole valley, every curve, every hidden path, every shadowed corner, every sunrise waiting beyond the darkest hill. What the figure sees as uncertainty, God sees as preparation. What they see as delay, God sees as perfect timing. What they see as silence, God sees as tender shaping. Higher wisdom is not distant, it is intimate, gentle, moving through every breath, every tear, every step, quietly guiding the heart toward deeper peace. The figure breathes this in, letting their shoulders lower, letting their thoughts drift upward, letting their soul rest in the warm truth that they are held by a wisdom infinitely higher and infinitely loving. Let your own breath soften, let your heart rise like theirs, lifted not by answers, but by trust, by the quiet sense that God sees farther than you ever could. You are being guided from the heights, even in the low places, even in the silence, even in the long nights of uncertainty, and the heart that rests in that truth begins to rise with gentle peace. The night holds itself in a deep and gentle stillness, a stillness so soft, so steady, it feels like a quiet confession from creation itself, a whisper saying that even the world has learned to rest in the hands of the one who shaped it. Inside the small dwelling, the lamplight trembles in slow, sleepy arcs, its warm glow stretching across the wooden floor, touching the woven mat with delicate curves of gold, painting the room in soft warmth that feels like an embrace, tender, unhurried, full of ancient calm. The solitary figure sits by the open window, body softened, breath slow and deep, hands resting gently open, palms facing upward in a posture of release, as though the heart has finally grown tired of carrying what it was never meant to hold. There is no strain in their posture now, no tension in their shoulders, no tightness in their jaw, only a quiet readiness, a softness blooming from deep within, a stillness shaped by trust. Something inside them has shifted, not in a way the mind can name, but in a way the soul knows, a subtle, sacred surrender, like the gentle untying of knots that had held the heart in anxious patterns for so long. They inhale, and the breath feels like warm light entering the body, settling behind the ribs, spreading through the chest with slow, healing warmth. They exhale, and the release flows out like a sigh of relief, a letting go of striving, a quiet relinquishing of the need to understand every turn, every delay, every unanswered question. For the first time in this long night, the figure feels the peace that comes when the heart stops trying to be the one who holds everything together, and lets God be God. Outside the window, The valley rests beneath a dimming sky, its shadows soft, its contours gentle, its grasses moving in slow waves beneath the whisper of the night wind. Nothing in creation forces its own way. The river flows where it is guided. The stars remain where they were placed. The wind moves along the paths only heaven can trace, and everything rests in surrender to the one whose wisdom is higher than the tallest mountain, higher than the farthest star, higher than all understanding. The figure watches the slow movement of clouds overhead, long, pale strands drifting in quiet patterns, guided by currents unseen, currents the earthbound cannot predict, yet they move with purpose, with ease, with certainty, never questioning the path set before them. The heart begins to mirror that ease, that trust, that simple surrender, not because the mysteries have vanished, not because the future has been revealed, but because the presence of God has drawn near enough to make the unknown feel safe. The lamplight flickers gently, its warm glow blending with the cool breath of night slipping through the open window, a mingling of earthly warmth and heavenly calm. The figure rests a hand lightly over their heart, feeling the steady rhythm beneath their palm, and it beats now with softness, with release, with quiet trust. Surrender is not loss, it is freedom. It is letting go of the weight the heart was never meant to carry. It is leaning into a wisdom higher than the mind can grasp, a wisdom that has always been guiding each step, each turn, each breath. The figure breathes in, slow and warm, letting the breath expand through their chest like dawn preparing beneath the horizon. They breathe out, long and gentle, letting the last remnants of fear slip quietly into the night. Letting every unanswered question rest without demanding an answer. Let your own breath soften with theirs. Warm, slow, deep. Let your shoulders loosen. Let your thoughts relax their grip. Let your heart feel the peace of surrender. You do not need to understand everything tonight. You only need to rest in the one who understands everything, who sees everything, who holds everything with tenderness. Let God be God, and let your heart be at peace beneath his higher way. The night has settled into the softest part of itself, a gentle depth where silence becomes warm, where shadows feel tender, where every breath seems to echo with the quiet heartbeat of heaven. Inside the small dwelling, the lamplight glows in a steady, sleepy shimmer, a soft gold breathing over the wooden boards, washing the woven floor in fragile warmth, its flames swaying in slow, peaceful arcs that match the unhurried rhythm of the solitary figure seated by the open window. The figure's posture is fully at rest now, shoulders lowered, hands open, breath moving in smooth, deep currents. A quiet rising and falling like waves brushing gently across a calm shore, and inside them, in the deepest spaces of the heart, something has begun to rise, not loudly, not suddenly, but gently, like a soft light blooming beneath the surface. It is the quiet rising of the soul when the weight of understanding is released, when the need for control dissolves, when the heart has finally surrendered to the higher way of God. This rising does not lift the figure out of the night, it lifts them within it, holding them in a way that feels steady, safe, carried, anchored by a strength far greater than their own. They inhale, and the breath enters like warm light spreading from the center of the chest through ribs, shoulders, arms, gentle warmth moving outward as though heaven itself is breathing with them. They exhale, and the release is soft, long, like letting silk slip from tired fingers, like the soul loosening its last threads of worry. The valley outside rests in quiet shapes of shadow and pale glow, its fields stretching outward in gentle curves, its grasses swaying in slow arcs beneath the cool night breeze, its hills standing steady, their silhouettes patient beneath the darkened sky. The figure watches this peaceful landscape, and for a moment, their soul feels lifted above the valley, not in distance, but in perspective. What once felt overwhelming now feels small beneath the sky. What once felt confusing now feels held within a greater wisdom. What once felt heavy now feels embraced by a strength deeper than sorrow, as the heavens are higher than the earth. So are my ways higher than your ways. The words drift through the figure as if carried by the soft night wind, settling gently into the places once tightened by fear, loosening the knots of anxious thought, touching every hidden ache with quiet truth. Higher ways do not diminish the heart, they elevate it. They raise it gently out of the low places and into peace, a peace that cannot be explained but only felt. The lamplight flickers, casting warm ripples across the figure's face, highlighting the softened jaw, the relaxed brow, the stillness resting in their eyes. This stillness is not emptiness, it is fullness, a fullness that rises when the soul rests in the one who holds all things. Their breath deepens again, slow, steady, warm air moving in long, calm streams, each inhale drawing in peace, each exhale releasing what no longer belongs. They lift their gaze toward the sky, and the heavens appear wider now, not because they have changed, but because trust has widened the heart, made room for awe, made room for wonder. Clouds drift slowly across. The stars, pale ribbons moving in sacred patterns only heaven can trace, a quiet reminder that what is unseen is still guided, still purposeful, still held in the hands of God. The figure senses this deeply, a reverence rising inside them, a quiet worship without words, a feeling of being small in the safest, gentlest, holiest way. The soul rises when it stops demanding to know and begins to rest in the one who does know, fully, perfectly, lovingly. The figure places a hand over their heart, and the warmth beneath their palm feels steady now, no longer trembling, no longer strained, but anchored, rooted, held. This is what it means to be carried by something greater, to rise into peace without lifting a single burden on your own. Let your own breath soften with theirs. Let your shoulders ease. Let your heart rise gently into the presence that has been near all along. You are held. You are carried. You are lifted by the higher way, even in the darkest night, even in the deepest quiet, even when you cannot see. What comes next? Your soul is rising, slowly, quietly, beautifully, in the hands of the one who knows the heights and holds your heart with tender strength. The night has entered its most sacred quiet, a deep, velvety stillness settling over the valley like a soft quilt of blue and silver, gentle, unbroken, a hush so complete that even the air seems to breathe more slowly, more tenderly, more softly around the small dwelling. Inside, the lamplight has dimmed to its gentlest glow, a warm whisper of gold resting on the wooden boards, painting the woven mat in faint light, its flames swaying in slow, sleepy rhythms like a heartbeat at rest. The solitary figure sits by the open window, hands resting softly in their lap, shoulders lowered, breath warm and unhurried, their body held in a peace so deep it feels like being wrapped in invisible arms, and inside them, beneath the rise and fall of breath, beneath the quiet glow of surrender, a stillness has begun to settle, not the stillness of emptiness, but the stillness of divine wisdom, a stillness that feels ancient, patient, strong enough to hold the world, gentle enough to cradle a weary heart and whisper that everything, everything, is known, seen, guided, in the higher way of God. They inhale, and the breath feels like cool night air mixing with warm, steady peace inside, a merging of earth and heaven right beneath the ribs. They exhale, and the release flows out like a soft ribbon carrying the remnants of fear, the traces of striving, the last thin wisps of wanting life to make sense on human terms. In this surrender, wisdom enters, not as knowledge, but as rest. The valley outside lies quiet beneath the sky, its grasses bending gently beneath the night breeze, its low hills resting like folded shadows, its silence rich with unspoken peace. The figure gazes out over this still landscape, and the heart inside them feels mirrored, the quiet around them matching the quiet blooming within. This is not the stillness of forced silence, not the stillness of defeat, but the stillness of trust. The stillness that forms when a soul no longer wrestles with what it cannot see and rests instead in the one whose wisdom rises far beyond the horizon. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. The words move softly through the heart, a warm echo filling the quiet spaces inside, settling the mind, soothing the emotions, bringing peace where questions once stirred like restless wind. The figure closes their eyes, and in the darkness behind their lids a vast space opens, silent, gentle, filled with a sense of being held in something infinite and kind. They place a hand lightly over their heart, feeling the calm beat beneath their palm, each pulse steady, each thrum softened by trust, each rhythm whispering that they are not alone, not abandoned, not forgotten. This is the wisdom of God, not shouted, not imposed, but breathed gently into the deepest places of the soul. The lamplight flickers one slow wave of gold over the walls, its glow softening even more as if bowing in reverence to the sacred quiet filling the room. Outside, the breeze moves through the valley in long, gentle currents, rustling grasses in tender whispers, moving branches in slow, graceful arcs, every motion unhurried as if creation itself trusts the higher rhythm of God's unseen hand. The figure feels that rhythm now, a quiet harmony beating beneath their own heart, a soft alignment between their small story and God's greater wisdom. Stillness becomes a sanctuary, a place where the soul can finally breathe without fear, without pressure, without the weight of needing to know what only God can see. Let your breath soften with theirs, warm, deep, slow. Let your shoulders sink into the calm around you. Let your mind rest from its constant reaching. The wisdom of God is holding you, guiding you, shaping your path in ways you cannot see but can deeply feel in this still, sacred quiet. You are resting in a wisdom higher than your thoughts, higher than your fears, higher than your understanding, and this rest, this deep, tender stillness, is the beginning of peace. The night holds itself in a deep, shimmering quiet, the kind of quiet that feels touched by heaven, soft, gentle, as though the darkness itself has been warmed by the nearness of God's presence. Inside the small dwelling, the lamplight has faded into a warm whisper, a faint glow resting low upon the wooden floor, breathing in slow pulses that match the calm rhythm of the solitary figure seated by the open window. The figure's posture is completely at ease now, shoulders soft, hands open in their lap, their breath moving in warm, even currents, each inhale weaving peace through the chest, each exhale carrying away the last threads of old tension. And deep within them, beneath the quiet of their breath, beneath the stillness that has settled across their spirit, a warmth begins to grow, slowly, gently, spreading like dawn through the heart. It is the warmth of heavenly assurance, a warmth that comes without explanation, without clear answers, without sudden revelation. It comes simply because God is near. The figure inhales, and the warmth expands, soft light blooming behind the ribs, moving upward through the chest, resting like a gentle hand over the heart. They exhale, and the warmth deepens, a quiet certainty rising inside them, not loud, not forceful, just steady, like a soft fire that refuses to go out. Outside the window, the valley lies in tender silence, its fields brushed with pale shadow, its grasses swaying in slow waves beneath the whispering wind, its hills glowing faintly under the softened sky. The clouds drift in long, gentle arcs, their edges feathered by moonlight, their shapes shifting in slow, sacred patterns only heaven understands. The figure watches this peaceful movement, and something inside them steadies even more. A soft alignment between their quiet heart and the quiet sky above. This is what assurance feels like, not certainty, not answers, not solved mysteries, but warmth, comfort, trust that rises without needing reasons. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways. The words settle into the deepest places of the heart, not as instruction, but as embrace, as tenderness, as a reminder that there is someone greater guiding every unseen moment of their story. The figure closes their eyes, and a soft glow fills the darkness behind their lids. A light, felt rather than seen, a warmth known rather than understood. It is the presence of God resting quietly inside them, steadying them, holding them in a peace that does not depend on answers. Their breath deepens, warm, slow, and the warmth spreads through their shoulders, their arms, their spine, a quiet melting of all the weight they once carried alone. The lamplight flickers, casting soft arcs of gold across the low walls, its dying glow joining the early whisper of dawn in the distance. Two gentle lights, meeting in the quiet hour where night and morning touch. Outside, the breeze moves in tender breaths, combing through the valley grass, rustling leaves in long, sleepy sighs, a natural lullaby created by the world God holds together. The figure senses this delicate harmony, nature breathing and their own breath moving with it, earth resting and their own heart resting with it. This is assurance, being held by a rhythm deeper than fear, deeper than confusion, deeper than the questions that once filled the night. God has not revealed everything, and yet the heart feels steady, safe, guided. Answers are not the foundation of peace. He is. The figure places a hand gently over their heart, and the warmth there is unmistakable, a quiet certainty pulsing beneath their palm, saying without words, "You're not alone, you're not forgotten, you're not lost. You're carried in a love higher than your ways, greater than your thoughts." The valley outside remains wrapped in its silent glow, but the figure feels light. Inside, lighter than they have felt in a long time, lighter than the night, lighter than the questions that once pressed heavily against their heart. Let your own breath soften with theirs, warm, calm, steady. Let the warmth of God's nearness settle through your chest. Let your questions rest in the quiet assurance that you are held by a wisdom beyond sight. You may not have the answers, but you have Him, and that is enough. The warmth of heavenly assurance is already rising within you. The night has entered its most tender quiet, a quiet so soft, so weightless, it feels like the whole valley has surrendered into rest. A hush stretching gently across every hill, every blade of grass, every silent rooftop beneath the deepening sky. Inside the small dwelling, the last flicker of lamplight glows like a soft ember, a warm echo resting low upon the wooden floor, shimmering in slow, sleepy breaths, its glow mingling with the cool air drifting through the open window. The solitary figure sits in that gentle meeting place between earthly warmth and heavenly coolness, their posture fully at peace, their hands resting open, their breath moving in long, calm waves that rise and fall with the quiet rhythm of creation outside. And deep within them, beneath the softness of breath, beneath the warmth of surrender, beneath the gentle assurance that has been blooming for many hours, a peace begins to settle, not a small peace, not a fragile peace, but a deep, anchoring, sacred peace. The kind of peace that comes when trust has finally rooted itself in the heart. They inhale, and the breath feels like cool light entering the soul, soft and steady, carrying with it the quiet strength of God's nearness. They exhale, and the peace expands, filling the chest, spreading through shoulders and arms, moving down the spine like warm water flowing in gentle streams. This peace does not require understanding. It does not demand clarity. It does not hinge on answers. It comes simply because the heart has surrendered into the hands of the one whose thoughts are higher, whose ways are higher, whose love is deeper than the night that surrounds them. Outside, the valley breathes in soft, slow murmurs. The grass is swaying in faint waves beneath the tender breeze. The branches moving as though lulled into rest. Even the distant hills softened into rounded silhouettes beneath the silver-grey stretch of the sky. Nothing is hurried. Nothing is strained. Everything rests in the quiet rhythm set by the one who holds creation. The figure watches this silent harmony, and something inside them aligns with it. The peace within matching the peace around. The heart falling into step with a higher rhythm moving quietly through the world tonight. For a long moment, they close their eyes, and in the darkness behind their lids they feel it, a sense of being held, not metaphorically, but truly, deeply, gently, held by hands that shape the heavens, held by wisdom older than the stars, held by love deeper than the night. This peace is not the absence of storms, it is the presence of God in the midst of them. A peace that reaches beneath fear, beneath sorrow, beneath every question the heart still carries, quietly whispering, "You are safe, you are seen, you are carried, you are mine." They place a hand softly over their heart, and the warmth beneath their palm pulses with steady calm. Each beat slow, unhurried, like a quiet song being sung through the body by the nearness of God. The lamplight flickers its final glow, its last arc of gold sliding across the floor before the flame settles into a still ember, as though bowing to the peace that now fills the room. Outside the window, the sky has softened to a pale blue haze, not yet dawn, but close, the first gentle stirring of morning. Hiding just beyond the horizon, the figure gazes toward that faint glow, and for the first time tonight they feel no urgency, no questions rising, no fear tugging at the edges of the mind, only peace, deep peace, quiet peace. The peace that comes from trusting that the higher way of God is always good, always wise, always loving, even when unseen, even when unexplained, even when the heart has walked through long shadows to reach this moment. Let your own breath deepen with theirs, warm, slow, steady. Let your shoulders rest. Let your thoughts become soft shapes drifting through the quiet. Let your heart ease into the gentle truth that you are held tonight, held completely, held tenderly, held in ways you cannot see but can deeply feel. You are in God's hands, and those hands do not tremble, do not falter, do not let go. The deep peace of trust is already taking root within you, quietly, warmly, beautifully. The night rests in its final deep hush, a soft, shimmering quiet settled over the valley like a blanket woven from shadow and early light. Still, tender, holding everything in a calm that feels touched by eternity. Inside the small dwelling, the lamplight has faded into a single warm ember, glowing faintly against the wooden floor, a slow, steady pulse of gold that blends with the cool air drifting gently through the open window. The solitary figure remains seated in the same peaceful posture, hands resting open, breath moving in long, slow tides, their entire being wrapped in a calm that feels new, yet ancient, gentle, yet strong. This calm has not come from seeing the path, or hearing explanations, or receiving sudden clarity. It has come from trust, quiet trust, the kind that forms when the soul has surrendered to the higher way of God and has been met, not with answers, but with presence, with warmth, with peace. They inhale, and the breath feels like cool dawn air entering the deepest places of the heart, a soft lifting rising inside them like wings unfolding for the first time in a long while. They exhale, and the release flows out in warm, gentle currents, as if every sigh of surrender has become a quiet river carrying them deeper into rest. This is a different kind of peace now, not the fragile stillness born from exhaustion, but the quiet confidence that comes only from being held by the one whose ways are higher, whose thoughts reach beyond the horizon of human sight. Outside the window, the valley is beginning to glow, just barely. Just enough for the heart to sense that dawn is near. A soft blue stretches across the horizon, the first light touching the edges of distant hills, the shadows growing lighter, the night loosening its gentle embrace. The trees sway in faint, rhythmic motions, their leaves whispering secrets carried by the wind. The grasses ripple in long, slow waves, as if bowing to the quiet. wonder of the coming morning. Even creation feels the shift, the turning of darkness toward light, the slow rise of day after a long night of rest, the quiet confidence that dawn always comes because the one who guides the sun never fails in his timing. The figure watches this subtle transformation, their eyes soft, their breath gentle, their heart steady, and something inside them rises with the coming light. Not a shout, not a burst of emotion, but a warm, steady confidence rooted in the truth that God has been present through the whole night, guiding, holding, whispering peace in every breath. They place a hand lightly over their heart, and the warmth beneath their palm feels strong now, like a soft fire glowing inside the chest. A fire not born of certainty, but of trust. Trust that the higher way of God is never careless, never random, never cruel. It is tender, measured, loving, woven with patience and designed with wisdom far beyond what the heart can see at first glance. The figure closes their eyes, and in the darkness behind their lids a quiet light seems to form, not the light of dawn outside, but the light of peace inside, a gentle assurance warming the soul from within. You are safe, you are guided, you are held by the one whose ways are higher and whose love is deeper than anything the night could bring. This assurance deepens, settles, roots itself within the heart with a softness that feels unshakable. Not every question has been answered, but every fear has been quieted. Not every mystery has unfolded, but every burden has been lifted. Not every path is visible, but every step is held in the hand of a God who sees farther, knows deeper, loves stronger than the mind can grasp. The valley outside brightens another shade, soft blue giving way to faint gold, the early breath of dawn shimmering across the hills, chasing the last traces of night with gentle persistence, and the figure feels this rise within them too, a quiet confidence blooming in the soul, like morning light spreading across shadowed ground. This confidence is not loud, not proud, not rushed. It is humble, steady, grounded in trust. The kind of trust born only after a long night of letting go, surrendering, resting in the higher way. Let your own breath deepen with theirs, warm, slow, peaceful. Let your shoulders relax into the calm around you. Let your heart settle into the quiet truth rising inside. His way is higher, His way is gentle, His way is good, and you are safe within it. You are walking into morning, with a heart held by God, with a peace deeper than sorrow, with a confidence shaped not by answers but by His presence. The first breath of morning spreads softly across the valley, a pale gold light unfurling at the edge of the horizon, gentle, unhurried, like a blessing poured slowly over the world. The night's deep blue lifts into tender shades of lavender and rose. The silhouettes of distant hills grow clearer. The grasses shimmer beneath the earliest touch of sun, and every shadow begins to lighten as dawn carries the world from mystery into quiet revelation. Inside the small dwelling, the final ember of lamplight fades, not in loneliness, but in completion, its gentle glow replaced by the soft radiance of morning drifting through the open window. The solitary figure sits bathed in this new light, posture relaxed, hands resting loosely in their lap, breath moving in warm, peaceful waves that rise and fall in harmony with the unfolding day outside. Their heart is no longer tight, no longer burdened, no longer reaching for answers that only heaven can hold. A deep peace rests within them now, steady, anchored, quietly luminous, a peace formed through the long hours of surrender, a peace born from the gentle truth that God's ways are higher, God's thoughts are higher, and His love is steady. Through every unseen moment, they inhale, and the breath feels like morning itself entering their chest. Cool, warm, full of promise. They exhale, and the release carries a softness that feels like the final loosening of every last worry, every last tension, every last attempt to understand what only God can weave. The valley glows brighter now, light spilling softly across stones and branches, touching the tops of trees with gold, warming the quiet waters of a nearby stream. Birdsong begins, gentle notes rising into the air, filling the morning with a music that feels like gratitude, like trust, like creation itself whispering its quiet amen to the dawn. The figure watches this sacred unfolding, and gratitude rises within them as surely as the light. Not gratitude for clarity, but for presence. Not gratitude for answers, but for peace. Not gratitude for knowing the way, but for knowing the one who leads even when the way is hidden. They lift a hand to their heart, and the warmth beneath their palm feels steady and strong. A quiet heartbeat resting in the hands of the God who holds all wisdom, all timing, all mysteries, all mornings. Slowly, gently, their eyes drift closed, and the glow behind their lids feels like sunlight spreading across a quiet sea. Like mercy flowing into every quiet corner, like trust settling. Deeper than thoughts can reach. The night has passed, the dawn has come, and the heart sits rooted in the gentle certainty that the higher way of God is always good, always loving, always enough. Let your breath soften with theirs, warm, slow, steady. Let your shoulders ease into the quiet around you. Let your heart settle into peace that does not depend on understanding. You are held beneath a higher sky, guided by a higher wisdom, carried by a higher love. You do not walk alone. You never have. You never will. Rest now, in the tender quiet of morning, in the warmth of the one who knows all things, in the gentle assurance that your story is safe in his hands. May peace rest upon your breathing. May light soften your thoughts. May love cradle your heart as the day unfolds. Sleep if you wish, or watch the morning come, knowing you are held, known, cherished, guided. May the God whose ways are higher wrap you in peace, now and always.